We're on? Awesome. Hi, Mr. Tony Giangreco.
Hi, Jeff.
How are you?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Good, very good. Thanks for coming on, man.
Of course, my pleasure.
So we're on today because, like, I've known you for how long?
8 years-ish, maybe 9.
And we've got to know each other for quite some time.
Yeah.
And you've been doing some incredible things.
Thank you.
Now, I know the biggest reason why I wanted to have you on was because of you growing up. It was kind of a rough path, and I only know a little bit about it. So it'll be fun to dive in and kind of talk about it. So, why? Well, let's start with, tell me a little bit about yourself, not just the past yet, but so people kind of know who you are, where you come from, and how we know each other.
So my wife and I, Cherise, also good friends with Jeff.
Mind Right Realty Group.
Correct. Yes, we own and operate the Mind Right Realty Group, which is a residential real estate company. We also own a real estate investment company, Life by Design Investments. We're investors in a couple other different business ventures, many of which with you, which is very cool.
Which is exciting.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's our professional background is primarily real estate, owning and operating multiple businesses in that sector. As far as my background, that's where you want me to go?
Well, I think
go deep into my dark past.
So let's. Well, you were in beauty products,
right?
Right?
Yeah,
dude, which is great. Now we'll talk just briefly about that because that's not the main reason why we're here.
Yeah,
you've had sales or learned leadership as well and made connections through that. So let's talk about, because it's so funny when you talk about like skincare and you're like, Nevin, you need to moisturize,
exfoliate, to mask. So yes, prior to real estate,
you look great, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. For 80 years old,
it's dragon blood.
Yeah,
you just got to drink dragon blood. So prior to real estate, Cherise and I both worked with an international skincare company. It was products from the Dead Sea, and I owned and operated kiosks in the malls. So if you ever were walking down the mall on your way to a destination, and some guy just harassed you out of nowhere and tried to buff your nail or like scrub your hands with salt, that was probably me for many years. In addition to the retail kiosks, we also had an international home-based business sales organization. So it was like, think about like companies like Mary Kay, right? Like they do home parties for makeup. We did home spa parties. So we would sell products in the mall, but we'd also generate opportunities for people who were like, hey, would you be open to hosting a private spa party for your friends in your home to get free products?
Yeah.
So I would like go to people's houses and like show them how to apply skincare products, cleansers, serums, moisturizers, masks.
It boggles my mind.
It was fun.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you went to the house and had those parties. And you were in the
so
skincare
many home parties.
I can't imagine you just there with a bunch of old ladies trying to get them to buy skincare products. That cracks me up.
The ladies loved me. Yeah, they loved it. You would have done well too. Good looking guy, nice skin.
I appreciate that. Right. Nice. Well, I think I still need a little bit of skincare.
We'll work on it. I got a couple of recommendations.
And before we segue into what I really want to dive into, what made you decide, okay, I'm going to go from skincare to real estate? Like, why even real estate? I mean, you could have done anything, truthfully, from what I know about you.
Yeah. I did consider getting back into corporate America, like going and getting a traditional job, because that was not a traditional job. That was entrepreneurship and doing different things. I was actually opposed to real estate. Cherise, my wife Cherise, was the one who was really excited about looking at it as another business venture, because it would give us the opportunity to work together, which we were already doing and wanted to do. Time freedom, flexibility to create our own schedule, and also the income potential was really attractive. I was opposed to it because I was really burnt out on sales. I'd been doing sales, marketing, in different capacities since I was like 18 years old. So I was like really like, I don't want to be a sales guy. I don't want to, I just had not the greatest perspective or perception of realtors, because I had not had some great experiences with real estate agents in the past. But then once I opened my mind to the industry and what it could actually create for entrepreneurs, I was like, okay, let's go all in. Let's do this. And that was it'll be, I think, 9 years in February that we made that decision.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I do remember you telling me Charisse was the one who made that recommendation, and you saw the potential. That was kind of very similar in my aspect. Is I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I wanted to start something, and it seemed like real estate was the easiest way to build something that you could call your own, with even just a low cost to enter into that business, which is great. So, okay.
Well, also in the exotic dancing you were doing wasn't really paying the bill.
No, I barely made anything.
Yeah, it was.
I've
seen the film. It's not pretty.
It's the one where, like, when I would go on stage, people would leave.
Yeah.
And it was,
But I mean, you learned a lot.
You tried. Wait, what's that? Oh, okay. We got a creative director wanted a little bit close. There you go. Attaboy. All right. So let's get into what I think has really shaped you into who we are and how, so you have, from my understanding, and I don't want to say it's maybe it is, but like a rougher upbringing, or you just had an upbringing that probably the typical person doesn't go through. And I think maybe it has shaped you into who you are. And I also feel like people who go down this path or have grown up the way that you have take two different avenues. One you could have stayed in that lane.
Yeah.
Or you saw something, which that's what I want to figure out on how you went into who you are today as a very successful person, a person who's extremely kind, motivated. So why don't you tell me a little bit about where you want to start?
Yeah, sure. And it's you made a statement that I think I'll challenge just a little bit. I think you said that my background, a lot of people haven't experienced it. And I think it's actually the opposite. I think there's a lot of people out there who've had similar experiences that I've had in their life. And that's why I think sometimes telling stories, sharing our personal experiences are important, because it can help someone else who maybe has been there or going through it right now see that, okay, you can really create a life by design and you can choose a different path than what you're currently on, right? So for me, just a quick background, I was actually born and raised until I was like 12 years old in California. My parents relocated from Southern California to Wisconsin, and it was an incredibly traumatic experience for me, because it was just talk about culture shock, right? And the same time that we moved, I turned 13 years old, which is a very, very pivotal time in someone's growth and development. My parents decided they are also going to get divorced. So it was, hey, welcome to a new state, a new climate, new environment. Also, mom and dad are no longer going to be together. And like a lot of people, my family was a little dysfunctional. Okay. My father's a recovering alcoholic. I think he's going on almost 20 years sober now, which is amazing. But at the time, there's a lot of substance abuse in the household. My mom experienced a lot of, mental health challenges because of that environment. And my brother and I both, it was just, there was a lot of trauma, growing up in an environment where you have substance abuse and general abuse in the household. Right. And so because of that combination of relocating to a new environment that was not very accepting to a Southern California skater kid, seriously, it was rough. You start to, you feel like an outcast. You feel like you're alone. You feel like no one can relate to what you're going through. And so what do you start doing to escape those emotions or to try to numb those experiences? For me, it was drugs and alcohol at a very, very early age, like 13, 14 years old. I'm introduced to all sorts of things that I probably should not have been introduced to at that age. Yeah. And not to get, a lot of kids go through that experimentation phase, but for me, it was a lot more to escape the challenges that I was experiencing in my household and in school and things like that. So I made some really poor decisions. I was a bad kid. I just saying, man, I was terrible. God bless my mom, my single mom in it. And literally, I can't count how many times she had to pick me up from jail from
Wow.
the ages of 14 until upwards until 18.
Would you be willing to share the first time you went to jail?
First time I was arrested, possession of marijuana.
Okay.
I think I was 15 at the time. Either that or underage drinking. That was a lot. That was the pattern for me,
Yeah.
right? Going out with your friends, and just making really poor decisions. And it progressed because I was always an entrepreneur early, just very misdirected. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I found myself on this trajectory of being a little bit of a ringleader with me and my friends in regards to, finding, pot, finding different, drugs and things like that. I was always a really good negotiator.
Entrepreneurial drug lord,
yeah.
dude.
So, unfortunately, that caught up with me and was arrested again. Finally, I was 18 at this point in time. I was still in high school. And at the age of 19, I found myself as a convicted felon.
Wow.
Because of drug possession with intent to distribute. Sales and entrepreneurship. Just again, very misdirected.
Yeah.
And so,
well, just real quick. You said you're always a little bit an entrepreneur in some way. Was there like a defining moment that you could remember that, not like you were, unless it was, but not like you were like 13, like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. You just obtained the skills or the mindset for it. Was there anything during that period other than, being a great negotiator on saving a couple of bucks on a bag of pot?
I've always been very passionate about helping people. Okay.
I can see that.
And always very passionate about making sure people were taken care of and people were looked after, which is why I tended to take a natural leadership role within my group of friends. And whatever that was, whether it was finding the best party, but also a party where I knew we'd all be safe, or, being the taking the lead on making sure wherever we were getting what we needed was going to be safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that probably had a big impact on it. But I also was always smart enough to know that I didn't want to allow the issues that I had to completely derail my life. And I was very lucky that the girl I was dating in high school, when we were getting ready to graduate, she was going to UW Whitewater, and I had no plans. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I applied to a couple of schools, got denied, and her parents, kind of stepped in and recognized, like, hey, Tony, you're a pretty smart guy. You have a lot of skills. What would you say you're doing here, right? Like, where are you going with that? And I didn't have an answer. And they said, we really think you should take a look at, applying to Whitewater, which at that time, barrier of entry was pretty low. Mm-hmm. And so I, with their help, because they had both attended school there, I was able to get accepted into college. And that was great because that did start to put me on a different trajectory. If I would not have went to college, I don't know where things would have escalated, because it took me out of the environment that I was in. It forced me to remove myself from the influences and influencers, right? And completely, give me the ability to kind of reinvent myself in a different
How old were you when you went into college, when you went into
I was 18. It was right after high school.
Okay, so it was right after high school. And so with the right before high school, because I know like the being into like drugs and stuff at an early age and alcohol and stuff, was there ever a point during that? So like what I'm trying to say is before we move on to a pivotal moment, I feel like there's still more to dive into with that area.
Sure.
Was there like a moment where this, before the parents was like, man, I'm getting, this is too much, or were you just digging yourself deeper into that lifestyle before that?
Yeah. I mean, it was escalating quickly. It was, and the drug use was expanding into a lot of different types of drugs, a lot of hallucinogenics, a lot of LSD, a lot of mushrooms, ecstasy, and it was having a physical and a mental and emotional toll on me. And I at least had enough awareness to know, like, if I keep going down this road, things are going to get really bad. There were moments where I again, I'll use the term awareness around, this isn't really what I want or where I want to go. I just didn't realize there was a way to fix it. And I think that's kind of, a big arc in the story here is the moment when you realize, number one, what I'm doing is not having a positive impact on my life. I don't really want to keep doing this, but more importantly, the knowledge that you can change it. Because I think that's where a lot of people feel stuck. They don't feel like there's anything they can do. They think that what they're doing right now is all that they can do, or where they're going is the only direction they have for whatever reason. And I was lucky enough to have, these experiences in my life to help me understand that, okay, you can choose a different path. You can change the trajectory of where you're going, and you don't have to be like your father, and you don't have to be like your mother, and you don't have to allow substance abuse, mental health challenges, depression, anxiety, all the things that millions of people in America deal with and across the world. You can start making different decisions and start working on yourself in order to become a different person in order to get different results.
And when was that defining moment for you?
So I was in college. I guess it started early, like in high school. One of the coolest classes I ever took was an intro to psychology course when I was a junior in high school. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Like they're studying the human brain. They're studying human behavior. And as someone who was struggling with addiction, understanding that a lot of this stuff can be broken down, and you can gain an understanding of why you're doing certain things and triggers and the subconscious trauma or whatever that is causing this, or at least contributing to it, was fascinating to me. So the first time I took a psychology course was like mind expanding. Like, oh my gosh, like you can actually change the way you think, you can change the way you behave. And that's what I started studying in college, was psychology. But in college, I was also introduced to a network marketing company. I don't know if a lot of people understand like direct sales network marketing. Big ones are like Mary Kay, Amway, things like that, right?
Yeah.
A big component of network marketing or direct sales companies is personal growth and development. So I was introduced at 18 years old to Tony Robbins. Not personally. We didn't hang out.
Right.
Okay.
No, that would have been cool.
Yeah, like,
that would have been like
he
a
wasn't
big...
in my dorm room like you have to change your life. Okay?
I don't know. Close.
Right.
It was close.
It was really
yeah.
we were
almost had
right.
it. That was
but
that down.
I was introduced to audios and books, because psychology was great. It was very technical, very, very, very collegiate or scholastic. And then there was, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Les Brown, all these personal development gurus that I started listening to these audios and reading these books. And it just really opened my mind that, okay, like you can actually focus on working on yourself, and everything else in life can be a byproduct of becoming the best version of who you are. And that was kind of where I really made the decision, okay, I don't want to live a life of mediocrity. I don't want to be a victim of substance abuse. I don't want to be a victim of severe depression, because I was diagnosed with depression 4 different times in my life. Never took medication because I was already too busy self-medicating, right? But I just looked around and saw people that were in their 30s, 40s, 50s that were paralyzed by all this stuff. And I didn't want to be that person. I knew I had more potential than that. And I knew that I didn't want to be that victim.
What I'm hearing is, I mean, obviously you've learned a lot, and you've had to like overcome them, obviously with some help, right?
With a lot of help.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot of help. A lot of people.
Who were those people? Well, yeah. Let's start there, because I have another question I want to ask you. So who are the biggest influencers, and what do they do that helped you turn those actions around?
I mean,
And you don't have to drop names.
Yeah, it's tough to give any specific names because there were so many people in my life that saw more in me than I saw in myself. There were so many people in my life that saw what I was doing and literally wanted just to smack the crap out of me and say, "You're too smart for this. You're too talented for like you could accomplish anything you want to accomplish if you just got your head out of your ass and stopped, using drugs and alcohol and allowing, these issues that you're experiencing to completely consume you and, stay focused on the things that are going to provide, the results that you want." So there were a lot of different people. There were certain college professors that really, took me under their wing and connected. There were people in the network marketing business, different mentors that just listening to their stories and where they came from and where they were and the type of income they were making was very inspirational. And my mom has always been a huge, incredible influence in my life too, because through all of any challenges that she's had, she's always supported me, believed in me 100% in anything I wanted to do, and always encouraged me to pursue whatever I was passionate about and not to worry about what other people thought. And so that was, really impactful.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that finding mentors is really important. And if you don't have the ability to find a physical mentor, I found those mentors in the books and the audios, in the Tony Robbins, in the Jim Rohns, in the Jeff Olson, author of Slight Edge. I mean, these are just some early ones that I would listen to these audios on repeat over and over, and I'd read the books over and over and over again, knowing that I had to brainwash myself. I had to brainwash myself and reprogram the way I was thinking.
It's so my first coach I had, he actually took me under his wing just because he saw that I wanted to do well in real estate, and the first thing that he told me to do was like self-talk.
Yeah,
I mean, like brainwash. It's the same exact thing. It's like convincing yourself by repeating it. Like I would have like, it's almost like affirmations. Like,
yeah,
because me being, the prospector. At first, I was so scared. My first time I ever made a phone call to an expired listing, it was behind my parents' garage because I didn't want anybody to hear me. And the conversation was actually going well, and I just hung up on her because I was so scared. So I know. So
that's awesome. That is a great story.
So he says, "Listen, write down things like when I call people, they want to hear from me. They want to know, they want my help, like things like that." And it's very much, it's just the self-talk, but like with the motivation and stuff, you're doing something with the brain that's switching, that's convincing yourself that yes, I can be that person. I am that person.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's no longer I can be that person. You're saying I am that person now.
Yeah. Some of the fundamentals, number one, goal setting in general, like having written specific goals, setting intentions, right? Positive affirmations, asking yourself questions of, okay, I want to accomplish this goal. What are the things I need to do to become the person who accomplishes that goal, right? And these are things that, and here's what's fascinating is I studied psychology since I was 17 years old, because the first course I took was in high school, and then I took another advanced placement psychology class as a senior in high school, which I think was the only class that I passed that year. I almost didn't graduate for high school, by the way. So it was, and then I studied psychology in college because I was lucky enough to get into UW Whitewater, and I'm studying years and years of psychology. And what's fascinating is I probably learned as much, if not more, about human behavior, personal growth and development, and human psychology in these personal development books than I did 5-6 years of studying psychology at a collegiate level. That was fascinating to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a really interesting observation of our society.
Definitely. I absolutely love psychology. In a similar aspect, it was in college where I took a psychology class, It was probably the most fun class I've had.
Yeah.
Have you ever read Thinking Fast and Slow?
No, I have it on my list.
I think I meant,
Yeah, you recommended
it's
it.
now it's more textbooky. It's not your, Tony Robbins telling stories and it's motivating. It's very more textbooky. Not a lot of people are going to really enjoy it as much as the self-help motivating books. However, it's really good. That's actually what my tattoo on my thigh is of the anchor. We won't get into that yet because I want to dive into kind of one final thing because you have a wonderful wife,
Amazing.
a
My best friend.
Yep, I know, she's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
You have a stepdaughter.
Yes.
Okay, Casey, which rock step. I mean, would you consider his stepson?
Well, Casey's not my stepdaughter. He's married to my stepdaughter.
No, I know, stepson. Yeah,
it's my son-in-law. He's my son-in-law. That's how genders work, Jeff.
God, I'm such an idiot. But then you have a granddaughter and a
grandson. Yeah.
Grandson.
Nico
Thanks. I
Natalia.
just need help. Thank you. Now here's where I have two stepsons.
Mm-hmm.
We won't go into my past, and we'll have to talk off this at some point because it's not about me, but we've had a lot of similar freaking things that kind of blew my mind talking about. So anyways, knowing that there were struggles that help mold somebody to like, we could handle problems a little bit better than some people who may have not had to struggle a little bit growing up.
Mm-hmm.
It's so my issue, I wouldn't say issue, what I'm trying to navigate is with like the stepkids. I'm not going to be like, all right, go sell drugs and get yourself arrested. Right. And then you're going to overcome life.
Not exactly.
Right.
That's advice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You want them, but our personalities, we want to make sure they're taken care of. We want to make sure they have the best. We want to make sure that, they're going to be great people. I think though, if giving too much without them learning things or having to struggle a little bit, when I say struggle, it's not, like I said, not that analogy. How are you kind of incorporating that with even Casey? Because I know you've coached Casey and he's had to overcome some things. Now you have grandkids. How do you think you'll do that in a way that's in a safe environment for them to become independent and take on challenges that will make it easier for them to overcome?
That's a great question, Jeff. And I'm thinking about it as you're asking and reflecting on some things. I feel like number one, it all starts with leading by example. Okay. Because that was one of the biggest challenges when I was younger. I didn't have the best role models or the ability to model ideal behavior around me. And as kids, that's all you can do. As children, you're literally little sponges just absorbing the information around you and not even cognitively developed enough to understand what is or is not good or bad behaviors, right? You're just modeling whatever is happening around you, okay? So number one, when I inherited my daughter, Paige, who is amazing and love her tremendously, it changed my perspective of, okay, I'm not just now working on myself for me and my wife, girlfriend at the time. I now have this human being that is looking at me and is potentially going to be modeling or adapting behaviors that she sees. Wow, that's a lot of responsibility now. Okay. And even to the next level with Nico and Natalia, our grandson and our granddaughter, knowing that, they look up to us and the things that they are seeing Sharice and I do are having a huge impact on how they're forming beliefs and values as children. And so just like understanding that whether it's your kids, your coworkers, your team, your friends, the person that you are has an impact on everyone around you, right? And so I think that's taking ownership of that and creating accountability around committing to being the best version of yourself is the first place it starts. As far as like the balance between wanting your kids or your family to experience some sort of adversity or struggle to create the skills, I don't think it has to be as detrimental of what we experienced, right? I would never want my daughter, my granddaughter, or my grandson to be in the same type of environment I was in when I was a child.
We don't want them to have a felony.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I don't want them to make the same mistakes.
Yeah.
But a lot of that was, number one, failing forward, making a lot of mistakes and learning from those mistakes. And you can teach kids how to fail forward without making terrible decisions.
And that's what I need to learn is where can I identify those areas where they can?
So,
do you have an example? I guess I should ask.
I think it's in the little things. It's not necessarily. So again, I'll reference a great book by Jeff Olson called The Slight Edge. And the whole philosophy of that book is that every decision has an impact. Every single decision we make every single day compounds exponentially to create massive momentum in one direction or another. Whether it's errors in judgment that are going to have a negative impact, or whether it's these really good decisions that add up and create an exponential growth in the right direction. And I think that helping kids understand every decision they make does have an impact, and challenging them to take risks, challenging them to have courage. We talk about courage a lot with Natalia, because you hear kids say, "I'm scared," right? "Oh, I'm scared of this, I'm scared of that," that's a natural human emotion.
What do you say to it?
Question is, well, what do we do when we're scared? We can either shrink, right, and be scared and not challenge ourselves, or we can have courage, right? Because on the other side of fear is freedom, and we can have courage and do the thing even though we're scared of it. And if we mess up, that's okay, because you either you either learn or you win, right? There's no losing, right? It's you either take an L, which is learning, or you get a W, which is a win. So the more that you can kind of instill those belief systems into kids of taking risks, taking chances, challenging yourself, stretching, learning new things, you're accomplishing the same thing as having hardships and working your way through them. But I think that, they're going to encounter hardships just like anyone else.
I think so too. And what I really liked is now it's the moment of, I could probably see the moment where Trey's the youngest, where there'll probably be a moment of that fight or flight.
Yeah.
And that's where I could step in and be like, "Hey bro, this is a moment." And how you were explaining it was there's like a couple ways you can handle it.
Yeah.
And letting them make that decision. I know that you're going to have to come on for a second time.
Yeah.
There's way more to like all of this.
Yeah.
And I love knowing at least kind of where that started.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to talk about, because obviously we have a lot of similar beliefs, and you have a lot that you could share to people. And
Thanks.
You've given your time already out of your busy schedule. Man, I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
I'm pretty sure everybody else out there is going to learn a lot from that.
I hope so. And I don't ever share these experiences or tell this story, for anyone to think, "Oh, poor Tony," right? Because there's people who have had way rougher lives or way worse, experiences than I have, and have accomplished as much, if not more than me. I just hope that, anyone who has struggled with substance abuse, who has struggled with depression, who has struggled with mental health challenges, knows that there is hope out there, and there is the ability to be happy and healthy and wealthy and create that for yourself and for your family. It does take work. It takes work. It takes a lot of hard work and commitment and time and energy, not focusing on everything else around you, but focusing on yourself and how you can become the best version of yourself. And that's really one of our missions, for Sharice and I, personally and professionally, is to, help people grow. And that's why, like, our business is the Mind Right Realty Group. And it's because
it's making sense.
Yeah. It's all because of that's the focus is the philosophies, the mindset, which then impacts the attitudes, the actions, and the results. So
I always end with what can you give somebody? And that was perfect.
Oh,
and
look at that. Same frequency.
Look at that. It's like, I don't even have to be here. You could have just done it,
All right.
You were so
now
good.
we're at so this is now the Mind Right podcast hosted by Tony Giangreco.
And not Jeff Nevin.
My co-host.
Jeff. Nobody. So if people did want to look you up, where can they find you?
What do you mean?
Well, like, do you have a Instagram? Do you have a Facebook? Do you have
I mean, if
website?
If you just Google Mind Right, 2 words, Mind Right Realty Group, that's where you'll find us. We big presence on Facebook, trying to get bigger on the gram.
On the gram, they say.
On the gram, that's what the kids are saying.
Sarush is cringing when we hear the gram. That's like the old thing to say. What do you guys say? Insta. Yeah. Lame. The grams.
OGs, man.
Yeah, OGs.
The OGs.
Thank you again, Tony. I appreciate it. And you're definitely coming on again.
Sounds good, man.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thank God for Sarush every time, because I always forget. Thanks for listening to Closing Time. If you guys ever have any suggestions, let me know. I'll see if I could get whatever topic you guys want. Appreciate it. On to the next one. And then he's just going to do a picture for the thumbnail.
Yeah.
Okay.